Thank you so much for joining us this morning here at the Sloan Club for our Hormonal Harmony conversation. For those that I have not yet met, my name is Victoria Smart and I am from the Beauty Triangle. And I'm really honoured this morning to be joined by 3 fantastic practitioners who are going to be discussing the routes to optimise our hormones, because I'm sure we can all agree that there becomes a time, or several times in life, when we can experience some changes during times of hormonal flux. But we also want to prepare for the future and put our best foot forward, whether that's trying to optimise our skin health due to changes in texture, tone, or laxity. Perhaps we want to look a little deeper and explore the nutritional swaps or supplementation that can support from the inside out. Or perhaps we're looking to regulate our nervous system and preserve our energy. Now, those are just a few of the things that we will be speaking about today. But just before we do, you should all have a programme on your seats. On there, you will find further information about each of our practitioners, as well as a referral card. So should you wish to be connected with any of our speakers following the conversation, please just pop your details there and we will connect you. Please also don't leave today without your goodie bag. In there you have a fantastic skincare product from All Skin Med, as well as some Arta supplements, which we are going to be discussing more about. And just a few words about the Beauty Triangle for those that aren't familiar. We launched 6 years ago now in order to educate and empower our audiences on all areas of their well-being, but really importantly from a holistic point of view, which is why you will always find 3 practitioners, each of whom are a real expert in their chosen field. But we also launched in order to connect you, our audiences, with these speakers. Which brings me very neatly to introduce today's panellists. We have aesthetic doctor and founder of the Dr. Paris Clinic, renamed Dr. Paris Achayra. We have nutritional therapist and naturopath and founder of Arta, Rhian Stephenson. And we have integrative health clinician and founder of 001 London, Ada Oy. Now that's enough from me. I'm going to hand over to our speakers to say a very quick hello, and then we'll get started with the main conversation. Paris.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for the lovely introduction, Victoria. I'm so pleased to be here this morning. A little bit about my background. I'm a former maxillofacial surgeon. I now specialise solely in regenerative aesthetics and hormone-informed medicine, really sort of blending longevity, skin health, and the biology all together to create a space where we can help women and men thrive as they go through their years.
Thank you, Paris. Rhian?
Hi guys, my name is Rhian Stephenson. I'm a nutritionist and naturopath. I have been in the industry for about 20 years, starting in clinical practice. Then I had a side kind of hustle into fitness, and now I'm back in the nutrition world. And I really love to just help empower women through understanding their bodies and what they can do to feel and function well every day. Oh, and I'm the founder of Arta. I should probably say that.
Hi, my name is Ada Oy. I am a trained Chinese medicine clinician. I've also got a background in psychology. So my brand is called 001 London, where we have a clinic and also we have a range of skincare and wellness products. I specialize in hormones, fertility, and autoimmune disorders. So looking at systemic imbalance for men and women to help them live a better and healthier life.
Thank you so much. And just to touch on a few of the points that you've made there, we will be touching on potentially some sensitive topics. So if anything does feel a bit overwhelming, please feel free to take a step outside, things like fertility and preparing and stuff like that. Paris, I'd like to start with you. You work really at the intersection between hormones and skin health. And I think this is really interesting because this conversation about hormones is definitely gaining more traction. Can you just start by explaining what are the main concerns of the people that turn up to your clinic?
Absolutely. So when people come in, they don't necessarily point out certain let's say, concerns like rosacea. But what they will say is their skin is more reactive. The products they were previously using aren't working anymore. They're finding that pigmentation's a concern, dryness, thinning skin. It's all of these sorts of things. We also see a lot of acne. So adult acne, persistent acne, despite, using all sorts of topicals. And these are the things that women really come in and find that they're struggling with at home.
And where do you start when someone's embarking upon that journey? Because this isn't just an aesthetic concern, is it? Things like acne, they're really a psychological concern as well.
Absolutely. So when they come in, generally I do a really comprehensive medical history. And so we're going to explore lots of different avenues. So looking at stress, sleep, diet, water intake, but also daylight hours. What is our circadian rhythm like? These are all really, really important factors in terms of determining what's going on. And our skin is the first organ that visibly shows the effects of what's going on internally.
And the largest organ, I think that's so fascinating. We often forget. Do you see a correlation between different life stages when it comes to our hormones and skin disruption? Is there any particular time that you see these things flaring up?
So I think hormones fluctuate throughout. So, we're going from teens where we're noticing that the skin will start to break out. There's more oil production. The androgens are really coming about. Then things settle a little bit, but we may become slightly stressed. So that can also trigger, because stress again is going to trigger your inflammation, the androgens from oil production. And so again, you're likely to get acne. As we then move on through pregnancy, we will notice changes in the skin, and then through perimenopause as well. And the key things that we start to see in perimenopause are thinning of the skin, and that's because the collagen production dramatically drops in the first 5 years post-menopause. Something like 30% reduction is reported in those first 5 years.
And there's always a really scary statistic about after 30, we decline by like so many percent. I recently turned 30 and I was really scared. And what do you do to empower your patients when they're coming in with those concerns? Where do you begin? Does it begin with testing? I know the consultation is a really large part of your practice as well.
Yes. So we'll always start with looking at the symptoms specifically. We do a lot of other testing as well. So we'll look at biological markers, looking at blood markers, but also genetics as well. We can look at longevity, so telomere lengths. The other things I find are important are doing a life viz. So this is a skin analysis where I can read what's going on underneath the skin. And it allows me to identify areas of inflammation, pigmentation, and things we can really work upon over the years. My patients stay with me for many, I've got a great retention rate and I'm so lucky for that. And so we go back and we look at these images that we've taken 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and comparatively look at the changes over that time.
It's interesting you mentioned things like imaging, because we're definitely taking a more personalised approach in all areas of wellness, but actually watching our own skin change over time is really quite fascinating. What products, techniques or treatments are you offering in clinic to help support when it comes to addressing skin concerns?
So I really take a skin is your foundation approach. So we start with looking at the skin regime and seeing where we can optimize. So often it will be looking at what you're using at home and whether we need to make small tweaks. There are so many products on the market. It is really overwhelming to decide what is right for you. And this is where help from a skin specialist is imperative, because we can guide you as to how to stabilize your barrier, improve any inflammation, help treat pigmentation, acne, all of these concerns. In clinic itself, I tend to use a regenerative approach. So the treatments are fully personalized. No two individuals have the same treatment at my clinic. It's all skin-based. So we'll look at the individual and we'll decide on their treatment plan. And each year you'll come back for a repeat consultation and I explore what's going on, what's happened over the course of the year, and then we decide on the next plan for the following year.
Can you explain some of the regenerative treatments that you're doing in clinic? Because we're hearing words like polynucleotides, biostimulators, all of those things are really flying around the industry at the moment, but it's super important for us to even understand exactly what they are.
Yeah. So what does regenerative mean? Well, it actually means the body's ability to repair and regenerate and renew itself. And there are lots of different ways we can do this. So traditionally, we used to use things like platelet-rich plasma, or PRP, the vampire facial. And that's you take your blood, you put it through a centrifuge, and we use the serum, so the plasma from that, to re-inject. And the reason why we use this is because it has all of the growth factors that we need to help stimulate the skin cells. Now, moving forward, we have newer technologies. So things like polynucleotides are fantastic for inflammatory pathways. We have exosomes, we have biostimulators, and I use a lot of these in clinic. Biostimulators are a fantastic way of stimulating collagen, but on a natural level, and they still allow for you to have surgery later on without any disruption to the skin tissues.
It's really interesting that we're speaking about using our own body's resources to regenerate and not just actually injecting foreign bodies now into our bodies. When you speak about technology, what are the technologies that you're using in clinic as well?
I love technology, and I think it really goes hand in hand with the skincare and the injectable side of things. So LED is key. It's so important for photobiomodulation in terms of treating things like acne, helping with inflammation, rosacea. We also use radio frequency for skin tightening. We have muscle-based equipment that helps to lift, firm, and tighten. So this is especially good for the core. And I use it a lot for improving that core strength alongside other treatments. So as we're heading into perimenopause, where we're noticing changes which may result in things like an incontinence, you can help to stabilize that pelvic floor.
You started speaking about the body there. You've taken the next question out of my mouth. What changes are you seeing in the body over time?
So more and more women are noticing changes with the skin quality in the body, and they're much more aware. Initially, we were just treating the face and neglecting everywhere else, whereas now people are actively seeking treatments for the neck much earlier on. But alongside this, we're looking at knees, arms, abdomens, because we see the effects of skin laxity here from pregnancies, from weight changes. A lot of people now are on GLP-1. So, these are all affecting our body composition and affecting the skin quality and the underlying fat, muscle, and it's really important to try and optimize this.
I always got told that you can tell your real age by your neck and your hands.
Do you want to guess?
We're all going like this. And ever since, I've been putting sun lotion on my neck and my hands.
And don't forget your vitamin C. So honestly, vitamin C should go all the way down and onto the hands because it's fantastic for the antioxidants and DNA protection.
Wow, I never knew that. Can we speak a little bit more about hormones as well? Because you're speaking here about all of the treatments that you can do in clinic to address probably more outward concerns, but actually you do so much testing in clinic as well, like you were saying before. At what point do you turn to hormones to help support your patients on their journey?
So I've always combined the two. I think you can't treat one without the other, and hormones play a key part in what's going on in our life. Within clinic, I created a program called the Fem Reset. This is a framework that allows me to assess hormones, stress, skin, sleep, the whole patient. And then we use, so we're looking at things like your cortisol levels, we're looking at your diabetic control, looking at cholesterol, looking at the hormones, so testosterone, DHEA, progesterone, estrogen. And actually, we can learn so much looking at these at different age groups as well. So often people will come to me post-pregnancy where things are a little bit all over the place, not knowing what to do. And so by testing at this stage, we just get an idea of what's going on. And it allows women to have this empowerment in terms of knowing their body, knowing their hormones. And I think hormone literacy is the real sort of superpower of where we're going now.
Hormone literacy, I've never heard that. I'm taking that. And where does skincare come into play? Because like you were saying, it's super overwhelming. There is every single product out there and we should apparently be buying all of it. How do you discern which products are best for each of your patients? Is there anything that we can also be looking out for in our own skin?
So what I would tend to say is try and evaluate your own skin. At home, it's really easy to do this. So cleanse your skin and don't apply anything. See how your skin feels. If it's suddenly very dry and tight, you know that moisture is that key thing that you're missing. We don't want to be using a 12-step regime. There is absolutely no need for it. I think we overcomplicate things, and that's because there are so many nice serums out there, and we just think, oh, we need this, we need that. Actually, you don't. You want to strip things back. When we go through hormonal transitions, often our barrier is compromised. And what that means is the structural integrity of the skin has lost its capability to protect the skin and the inner environment. So this is where we need to take care to actually think about gentle cleansing, protecting the barrier, thinking about DNA damage and how we're protecting our skin against these environmental aggressors. So whether it's things like your vitamin C, niacinamide, certain products are going to be really helpful for that. If you're more acne prone, I tend to stay clear of vitamin C that may be oil-based, because again, that's going to trigger your acne. Moisturizing, but finding the right hydration, that's key. And most of all, find an SPF that works for you, because that's your best anti-aging tool.
Is there any SPF you're allowed to recommend?
I love HelioCare and All Skin Med, but excitingly, we're going to have a new one released, which is called Totty, and that is fantastic. It's actually tinted, and you've got multiple different colors, so it'll suit every skin type, and it's SPF 50 with, so you can get a foundation, you can get a CC cream. So we've got lots.
When's that due out?
In the summer.
Oh, exciting. Thanks for mentioning HelioCare. You can buy that on the Beauty Triangle boutique. Plug. Microneedling, something that we're all hearing more about again. Where does that come into this? Because that's actually can be suitable for most skin types and at most ages, right?
Yes. So I'd say I'm probably the OG of microneedling. It's one of the first treatments I ever trained in, and that's because I saw how beneficial it was for the skin. And actually, you can treat a 20-year-old with microneedling because it's going to help the overall skin product. So you'll help with pores, you can help with texture, you can help with scarring. There's multiple benefits, and you get collagen production. So it's known as collagen induction therapy for that reason. Microneedling consists of creating tiny areas of trauma through the skin in a controlled fashion, which then stimulates the body to create an inflammatory response and repair itself. And what we find in clinic, I do a lot of combination protocols with microneedling. So I have a glow getter protocol where we use mesotherapy ingredients that are infused into the skin. I've also got a liquid laser where I combine microneedling with a chemical peel, but also using growth factors and exosomes. So there are lots of different ways to personalize these treatments, and you can treat different skin concerns accordingly.
I'd like to go back to testing for a moment and just ask, is there anything that we should be looking out for when we are conducting these tests? Because if it's not in your clinic, we may go elsewhere. Are there any particular markers that are important when it comes to assessing our hormones?
Yes. So I think what's important is the overall perspective in terms of what's going on. I think when we check, if we're having regular cycles, we should be checking around day 21 of the cycle. That's the optimal time for us to see what's going on. If we're not having regular cycles, it's not as important in terms of what date you're going to test on. What we will start to notice very early on are the changes in progesterone. These are identified late in most clinicians, but I actually think we start to feel those changes within ourselves probably in our early 40s. Going on from that, testosterone, I feel like it's getting a lot more considered now. However, it's still one of these things that women are denied testosterone replacement, and it is a key hormone for confidence, fatigue, helping with all sorts of things, forget, away from libido. We're talking about day to day, just feeling like yourself again. And that's what we really want to do. We want to feel like ourselves.
You've touched on something important then. I'm throwing this question in without preparing you, sorry. But that's intimate health, and that is a change that is so large when we're experiencing this change through time. Is that something that you're seeing more of in clinic as well? And is there anything that you can do or anyone that you recommend to that can support with that?
Yes. So within the clinic, we are hearing much more about intimate health as well. And I will always ask about things like vaginal dryness, incontinence, because these are key areas that we need to explore. In clinic, I do prescribe compounded formulations for dryness itself. And I do also refer on to colleagues, so I'm more than happy to pass on some names as well if anyone's interested, because it's a really key area that we need to maintain.
For the psychology of our lives as well. And just finally, Paris, what are the most overlooked things from home? I know that we're going to be speaking about nutrition and movement. Is there anything that you recommend to your patients to be doing from the comfort of their own home if they're not in your clinic?
Yeah. Sleep is the key, and I'm sleep deprived often as well, but I would say sleep is probably the easiest thing that we can try to have some control over. And what we will notice is as we're going into perimenopause, the progesterone is being fluctuating, and so this is the first thing that also goes for us, sleep deprivation. Other things I find are important are stress management. Again, it's easier said than done. We're working really busy lives. We're juggling so many different things. But it's important to find an area where we can actually de-stress. So whether that is through meditation, exercise, journaling, whatever it may be, we need to take that time for ourselves outside of everything else. And even if we're giving ourselves 15 minutes a day, that's not too much to ask for to actually protect your own internal health.
That's such a beautiful note to end on. Thank you, Paris. That was fascinating. And if anyone's got any questions, we will have time at the end. Thank you so much. Thank you. Rhian.
Hi.
I'm really excited to interview Rhian because I haven't had the chance yet in all these years. But I love your approach to being very honest about what we're experiencing in this industry. But actually, you combine this idea of naturopathy, and I think it's really important because it's genuinely a very holistic approach. With the people that you were seeing in clinic, but also through ARTA, what do you see are the main concerns of people that are experiencing hormonal changes or flux?
So I think they're so broad because hormone touches everything. So if we were to split it into people who are still cyclical, that is really just volatility. So volatility in energy, in gut health, in skin, in sleep, really just feeling like I feel great for one week a month, and then for 2.5 weeks I feel terrible, right? So I think that kind of encompasses everything because there's so many different symptoms. I think then once you go into the perimenopausal years, it's more about feeling flat, right? So losing kind of your confidence, feeling like all the things you used to do, you used to eat, it doesn't work. You're slowly gaining weight, you're losing your muscle mass, you have a bit of brain fog. So just feeling like all the things you used to do, they just don't cut it now. And that's probably the thing I hear the most in perimenopause. So kind of a split there.
And how do you go about addressing that? Because you take a very root cause approach. So how do we go to, we've spoken here about testing, but is there anything else that we can be looking out for to see that we're experiencing these changes?
Yeah, look, I think one of the things that's really challenging with health is you need to kind of take your own time to really investigate how you live, what you eat, and how consistently you do it all. Because we're kind of taught to try one thing for 5 days, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and we quit, we start again Monday. But really, you have to observe yourself over a couple of cycles. So unfortunately, sometimes it can feel painful, but you have to identify that pattern because we are so changing that you can't just be like, well, I felt this last week, so this is how I should feel kind of every week. So you really have to take the time to identify patterns. So I always say that you should kind of make a food log. It's super boring, but make a food log, make a lifestyle log, look at when the bloating happens. Is it always on day 14 or is it right before your period? What are those common things that you're seeing every single month? And not because you went out and had a big night, but because they're just there all the time. And then you can start to identify, okay, these are my main issues. I can look at what I've been eating and see if it correlates. And if that's all too complicated, of course, see a practitioner and they're going to help you. But you have so much information about your own body. It's just so helpful if you come armed with that. I think that's one of the most important things.
It's interesting that you say that it takes time, and I think that's something we all forget. We all want that magic cure all suddenly, but actually it's that consistency piece and getting to know ourselves. At what point do you think we should be intervening with things like supplements? Is this something that you advocate doing through all parts of our cycle from like a younger age, or is it something that you see more through the stages like peri-menopause?
Well, I run a supplement brand, so I'm totally biased here, of course.
Besides
But
that.
I mean, yes, of course that they can help. But what I think is really important to understand is that supplements shouldn't be used to replace changes to your diet or to your sleep or to your or to how you live, because those are always going to be fundamental. So you should look at your nutrition and the lifestyle things that you can do as the fundamental layer. Supplements are just going to help make everything better. But if you're taking magnesium because you can't sleep, but then you're having alcohol five times a week, you're living on coffee, you're really stressed, there's only so much that magnesium is going to do, right? So I think that from a kind of a broader point of view, it's really important to look at your patterns. 96% of us aren't getting enough dietary fiber, right? And while that's kind of the easiest thing to see and the easiest thing to change, it can actually be quite hard, because once you get into a dietary pattern that works for you, and especially for women, what I see is that because there's so many gut issues, it's really hard to tolerate a high fiber diet. So there's a lot of people who actively avoid things like beans and your lentils because it actually makes you feel far worse. But it's one of those things that as you introduce it, it will get better. So for sure, a really good quality low FODMAP fiber supplement can be incredibly helpful as you work on building your tolerance up. I think also then just looking at things like how early in the day do you have some protein, right? What I see often is just over fasting. So people, they wake up and they might have been up all night with their kids, and then they slam some coffees until noon, and then they don't really have much food at all until lunchtime. And then that meal is also quite small. So it's not necessarily that they might not be having enough if you look at their total day, but it's the timing of it all too, because we need to fuel our bodies in the day when we need energy. If you want to fast, maybe you can bring that to nighttime, right? Because that's when actually our body is supposed to shut down, is supposed to work on the more regenerative kind of actions. But I think I went a little bit off topic there. The question was about when should you supplement? I think it's also really important to look at your menstrual cycle like a vital sign, right? What we know is that women as a whole, we're not getting kind of 7 of the core micronutrients we need for fertility from diet alone. So if you are someone who's considering it, starting a prenatal that's high quality as soon as possible is only going to be helpful. Even if you aren't sure if you want to have kids, it's still going to probably support a healthy cycle, which will kind of feed on to every aspect of your life. And then as you move through perimenopause, this is where supplementation can really shine, because we're going through so many changes. We're losing insulin sensitivity, we're getting brain fog, we're more tired. So that's also where it can be very helpful.
You've touched on so many things I want to unpick here.
It's so generous.
I'm going to start with fiber, because...
Test it.
Hello. Oh, we're back. We're hearing so much more about fiber at the moment. Fiber maxing is what I'm seeing everywhere. Everyone's fiber maxing. I haven't yet fiber maxed, but...
it's just eating enough fiber, really. It's just fiber maxing.
Okay, there we go. It's
just eating more fiber.
What role is fiber playing, and why is it so important for us to include it in our diets?
Yeah, so fiber is the kind of the main thing that is going to help you have a healthy microbiome, right? So fiber is undigested in your digestive tract. It goes to the colon kind of unchanged, and that's where your microbiome starts to ferment it. The fermentation here helps to create really beneficial compounds called short-chain fatty acids. Those are involved in kind of every aspect of health. That's one angle. It also helps you feel full. It also helps you have healthy and regular bowel movement. So all of these things are just so important for health. The health of our microbiome is linked to everything. We've got the gut-brain axis, we've got the gut-skin axis. So when you're looking at health, having a healthy gut is probably one of the most foundational things that you can do, and having enough fiber is critical in that.
And you spoke about detoxification there, and that's particularly important when we're speaking of hormones, right? Isn't it the way that we excrete of one of the most important hormones through these cycles.
Yeah, so one of the things with estrogen is you want to use it and lose it, right? So you want to use it and then your body needs a way to get rid of it. That is through the estrobolome. So what can happen is if your bowel is unhealthy or your microbiome is off or you're constipated, is you reabsorb it and then it recycles into your body, and that can impact your periods, inflammation, kind of everything. So you really want to make sure that you're having a big healthy bowel movement every day and your microbiome is healthy, and that's going to help with hormones, but also the detoxification of other things as well.
It's really interesting talking about bowel movements because I think it's something we
Sorry, we always talk about bowel movements as nutritionists.
No, but it's important because it's something we don't often talk about, but actually, like you say, it's a really important part of that hormonal cycle. You take a food first approach. Are there any particular ingredients that you recommend adding into our diets or ensuring that are in our diets during these certain phases of our hormonal cycles?
I think it's really easy to get like swept up in the idea of cycle syncing in certain foods for certain weeks, but really it's about the consistency of your overall dietary pattern, right? So are you getting enough fiber every single day? Are you getting kind of 8 to 10 servings of fruit and vegetables, more on the vegetable side? Are you getting adequate protein? These are the things that matter, good quality fats. And when you're doing all that, there isn't as much room for everything else. And so what we want to do is train that consistency, because the consistency is what's going to help you have good blood sugar, which impacts hormones. It's going to help you have good bowel movements, which we've already talked about. It's going to help with inflammation. So all of that stuff over time is going to be far more impactful than having, one seed at the first part of your cycle and another seed at the last part. It's really about that foundational health. It's far less boring, it's far less exciting, but that's what's impactful.
It's the boring things that matter most.
Yeah, it's just consistency.
It's so true. And I'd like to speak about creatine.
Oh, I love creatine.
And I think it's definitely becoming more popular, but actually really important when it comes to women's health and strength. And can you explain what creatine is and why it's important that we should be trying to supplement that within our diets?
Yeah, so creatine is a naturally occurring compound that's made of 3 amino acids. And we used to think it was just kind of for the gym because it's involved in high intensity kind of energy output. So when we think that, we think of sprinting, power, weights, and all that kind of stuff. It helps the body produce and buffer kind of have our unit of cellular energy, which is called ATP. But what we know now is actually that creatine is involved in every energy intensive process in our body, including cognition and including things like ovulation and the building of the endometrium. What we also know is it's responsive. So the way we metabolize it is responsive to our hormones. So we actually use a lot more of it in the second phase, so in the luteal phase of our cycle, which some people are saying maybe this is also why we feel so tired, right? Because we're using up that store to build up the endometrium. So something that's become very popular, and I think it's incredibly helpful, is even if you don't want to take it all month, using it just in the luteal phase can be incredibly helpful to help combat, those symptoms of feeling really tired and brain fog. But it's also been shown to be very helpful in periods of chronic stress and lack of sleep. So there's been some really kind of interesting stuff that's come out that shows when you sleep deprive 2 groups of people, but you give one group some creatine, they perform better in terms of memory, in terms of cognition. So it can really help you to combat kind of that feeling you have after you haven't slept, which is why I love it, especially for moms, right? Because we wake up kind of blasted.
I can't relate, but I still do wake up just thinking about everything else.
Well, I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, so and they don't like sleeping. I love them very much, obviously. And that has been one of the most impactful things I've done in the last year, just to help me feel mentally sharp still, even though you're just so tired. The other thing that it's really helpful for in terms of peri-menopause is that because our metabolism changes with estrogen and we lose estrogen, it can help you kind of maintain the muscle in an easier way. And for women, that's so important because the same way we lose our collagen, we also lose our muscle mass much faster in peri-menopause. So it can kind of help to offset that in combination with exercise, not on its own.
We'll touch on exercise shortly, but is creatine something we can also be taking or seeing benefit from in menopause?
Absolutely.
When the cycles are past?
Yeah.
Interesting. And movement, where does that come into your practice? How do you recommend people incorporate that into their lifestyle? Because you spoke about cycle syncing, which is not just important, I don't think, for when we're having a cycle, but it's that approach that we're taking to including these kind of things in our lives, the more holistic approach.
Yeah, so in the same way that the boring stuff with nutrition is true, it's same with exercise, right? Unfortunately, as a population, only 4% of us are meeting the guidelines for both strength and cardio. 4%, so it's not a lot, right? So when you do things like cycle syncing, which kind of tell you, oh, just rest for 1 week and, you know, just be careful, it kind of takes away from that when we're already having a hard time being consistent, building strong muscles, helping bone density as we age. So it's really, really important, again, just to be consistent with both strength and cardio. I think there's also this myth that if you do cardio, it's going to make your hormones imbalanced. It's not. It's just simply not true. So it's really important to find a way that works for you, but work on strengthening and also cardiovascular fitness consistently and as consistently as possible.
Consistency again.
It's all super boring.
It's all about consistency. And I'd like to ask you about more inflammatory concerns, things like endometriosis and other women's health concerns and things like that. Is that something that we can address through our diet and supplementation as well to help bring down those levels of inflammation?
100%. So when you look at kind of some of the patterns that are associated with the modern diet, it is inflammation, right? And kind of a problem with insulin. So, and that's because when we eat more on the ultra processed side, when we don't eat enough dietary fiber, that kind of fuels inflammation. When our gut is off, it fuels that. So eating in a way, and the good news is it's all the same, right? It's all the same type of things that you should do, which is more fiber, more plants, good protein, and more micronutrients. There isn't like one special diet for endo, one special diet for people. Like it's all the same. So of course there will be some variation with you, like whether that's how much carbohydrate you tolerate or certain types of foods, but the overall pattern that is going to help you kind of beat inflammation and be as healthy as possible is high plant, high fiber, and then lots of those healthy kind of omega-3 fats. Only 1 in 5 of us are getting enough of the essential fats from diet. So that's something else that you could really consider supplementing with, either as you work on getting that up or instead of, if it's something that you don't want to kind of eat more of the oily fish. But there's so much there that you can do with your diet and how you manage your stress and sleep. It's really important.
And that would be like an omega supplement, for example?
Yeah.
And just finally, the supplement industry is like skincare. It's completely overwhelming, but also unregulated. I know you're slightly biased, but as someone who works in this industry, how do we navigate what we should be looking for when we're trying to take supplements safely?
Yeah, so I think one of the most important things is making sure that your brand does third-party testing. So we do that, and that means we send off our formulations. They test it to make sure that what's in it is what we say is in it. So they test it for the labels. They also test it for heavy metals, for microbiology, for contamination, right? We have no control over that, and that is one of the biggest things to look for in any supplement brand, because it means that they're guaranteeing you that they are really invested in the safety and the purity of their products. I think it's also really important to look at the dosages and the way they formulate it. I think you're looking for things like synthetic fillers and colorings and sweeteners. Those are all things that kind of come into play as well. But yeah, I think the first and foremost thing is third-party testing.
Thank you so much, Rhian.
My pleasure.
That was brilliant. And again, we'll have time for questions at the end. Thank you. Ada.
Hello.
So you take a very interesting approach in clinic because you have 2 parts to your clinic, and that is looking at the more integrative health medicine, but also the aesthetic side. Can you explain why that's so important and a really interesting approach to take when we're speaking about the changes that occur during hormonal flux?
So in our clinic with our integrative health side, we would have a team of Chinese medicine practitioner who are trained in Chinese medicine, but they also specialized and trained in Western medical disciplines. So with this this division, what we do is we really want to find out the root of any of the problems that our patients are coming in to seek for help. It's very interesting because with us, because we have a focus in Chinese medicine, our patients come in, either they have diagnosed conditions, but they kind of reach a ceiling of management with conventional Western medicine. And then another kind of clients, they come in, they don't know what's happening because they have done all the blood work, but they just don't feel right and just don't feel good. Then that can be from the skin, the appearance, lots of acne for their entire life, they don't have acne, and then all of a sudden in their 40s, just acne bubbling up. They always say, I have got more acne than my teenage boys. So with our integrative health clinician, all of us, we work on really managing the systemic balance. In Chinese medicine, we don't look at one organ system. It's all about the interlinkage connection between all of them, which I can explain a little more later. Now, then it can be quite single-minded for us as much as holistic we are, but then we can really focus on looking at the irregularity between the systems, and then working with them with acupuncture to regulate their nervous system. Acupuncture has been proven to be very good in down-regulating the fight or flight signals, and really toning the parasympathetic system, which is the rest and digest, relaxing kind of signals, and then supplement them with herbal medicine. And if necessary, also, depending on their diet as well, supplementation with supplements at different stage of their life. I do feel that as much as I really think I have this approach of less is more, but then sometimes we don't know what we're doing with our diet because today there is a headline of carbohydrates is bad for you. Tomorrow there is fasting is good for you. And then actually very interesting, a lot of my patients, they don't eat a lot of meat. So they're not vegan, they're not vegetarian. It's just that they don't eat a lot of meat. And I think over time, in their mind as well, they don't feel good eating meat. Then what do? So then we help them create supplement plan. We also work with them on herbal medicine to help them really lift the qi and energy and circulation, and all the other specifics. And then there is the lifestyle piece. So we work very closely with them to develop a diet plan at different stage of their life, different stage of their cycle. For example, patients can come in telling us that they've got very bad period pains, but not just when you start period, but actually after they ovulate, the whole body aches, lower back pain, and then also headache, and then starts to have all these cramps throughout until the end of their cycle. Then meaning that the diet, you need to already start nurturing them 2 weeks before their periods. So that's that. And then another, we're able then to focus also on evaluating the exercise, because like what Rhian has mentioned, has mentioned that a balance of high impact and low impact exercise. For us, we're talking about the same thing, but it's more like the yang and the yin kind of exercise. Depending on the age, right? If you are more like going through peri-menopause and menopause, we would say that this is the time where you have almost overdrafted your kidney essence reserve. So then what we would do is we want to recommend more yin nurturing exercise, but we are also combating with muscle loss. So then we will then have to help them create a plan that they will still build their muscle, but it wouldn't it wouldn't tax their nervous system so much, and also overdraft their energy so much as well. So that's the clinic side, I would say. And then the skin side, then we can leave our therapists to really focus on working on the hormonal acne. We work with a lot of hormonal acne. So lots of extractions and treatments to really repair the barrier, and then further along the line, working with the marks and the scars, etc.
Thank you so much. You mentioned qi and energy there, and it's a really important part of the work that you do. Can you explain how that connects to our hormonal health, and how you as a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner see this idea of energy and qi impacting?
Qi is not a mystical word. It's just a Chinese translation of circulating energy. So if we think about qi, there are two basic elements. So it's not just the qi. We have, if you think about qi as like an engine, right? And then, but the engine needs fuel as well. So you also have blood fueling this engine. So then you create a full circulation of your whole entire body, supplying all your organ system, the liver system, the kidney system, the spleen system. So when we say qi needs to circulate, we always talk about a smooth flow of qi, what it means. And I want to explain it through the organ system because that would make you see the cycle of qi from a more like functional well-being perspective. So the first thing we look at a lot of time with modern women, where I have a psychology background, so I really believe that the nervous system governs all our functional systems. You can talk to a psychologist, they can give you a big debate. Do we have free will? Is our nervous, is our brain, controlling our will? That is debatable, but our functional system, it's definitely our brain is governing them. Now, when we talk about nervous system, it's closely linked to our liver system. So liver system process our emotions, our stress, but on the other hand, the liver system also governs the flow of qi and blood. Now you can see that if we have stress if we have stress and if we have got lots of emotions in our life, which is very common every day, every moment we have our emotion. Now I'm feeling this qi really uprising because I'm very passionate and telling you all of these things. Then what happens is your liver system can go into a bit of a traffic jam, I would say. So the load of it, you will consume a lot of energy to process your emotions, but then what our nervous system is, then it can be overloaded. Then what about the smooth flow of qi and blood, meaning that your body might not get sufficient fuel. And if you are constantly in this stage where you are managing your emotions through your liver system, then you have to overdraft energy from your kidney system. So kidney system is store our reproductive jing, which is our essence, that is constitutional, given by our parents, and it's almost like our blood reserve for us to use when we have children, give birth, when we go into an old age, manage our big hormonal fluctuation, and actually each month, because it also conducts our reproductive system, you take a little bit of this kidney energy to regulate your system. But if you're overdrafting it, then you will start to see symptoms of hormonal imbalance. Again, there's a traffic jam there. Now what happens? Liver is controlling the qi for emotion, and then you have got overdrafted kidney energy. Then when you eat, you don't have sufficient energy to do digestion, which is where our spleen system comes. So our spleen and stomach system, they commands digestion. So digestion for us is a process of digesting, transformation, distribution, and detoxification and absorption. So we are not what we eat, we are what we can absorb.
I love that.
So then basically, if your qi is kind of in a traffic jam, you don't get a good circulation all around the body. And that would come, and then you'll see different symptoms and patterns of irregularities.
How can we align our qi? Just asking for a friend.
Align qi, very important is, I think we live in this very busy world where we don't leave space for ourselves. So leave space for rest is very important. Rhian and Paris has talked about, sleep is very important. Another is just being still. I would say that staring into the air is not a crime. You really don't need to look at your phone and trying to learn new information all the time, because just by being still, you're nurturing your yin energy, your kidney, deep core, deep energy. And of course, then we can have more strategies that are even more like yin nurturing, and that's more intentional. I don't want to use the word meditation, because every time I say meditation, it just scares my patients off. It's just simple breathing exercise, 3 deep breaths when you're lying down before you sleep, and then you let your brain listen and learn that pattern of deep breathing, and then gradually hopefully you can do more and more, and then you will start to breathe downwards deep to the core, and not just to your lungs, where there's always a disconnection between the upper body and the lower body if you consistently do that.
You mentioned this idea of qi and energy, but you also spoke to me offline about energy conservation. And I found that really interesting, because when we speak about women's health, we often say that it's sometimes the final thing that our body can give energy to. So that's why we may lose our cycle when we're underweight, for example. How do you see that? How do you encourage your clients to really actually practice energy conservation?
Energy conservation at home, I would say, let's say at home, is very important in diet. Again, like what Rhian has talked about, we see a lot of women overfast because they put other people in front of us. You wake up, get the kids out of the house, and then do some chores, and then it's 12 o'clock. Okay, I might have a toast. But if you think about how long your body has been starved from the moment you sleep until the next morning, and then I think there is also this idea that you should be eating everything just protein-based, then it's very complicated for the body to digest as well. It uses up a lot of energy. Here, I really want to put it out there, and I come and have a debate with me. Carbohydrates, again, is not a bad thing. It's just how you eat them. Sometimes our body really need that quick energy to conduct the full process of digestion. So having a high protein but complementing with a moderate amount of carbohydrates can help. And then also exercise, don't overstrain yourself. When your girlfriends have been doing lots of cycling classes, it doesn't mean that you have to. When everyone's talking about weight building, it doesn't mean that you have to. And again, because then you can space it out. You can do 30 minutes of weight, and then you can do 30 minutes of yin yoga, for example. So just have a variety. And also energy conservation is something very interesting in the sense of managing the emotional component as well in exercise. I am finding it very interesting now that some patients would come into I've been doing exercise for 30 years. I don't know what more I can do. So you say no to this, you say no to that. I don't find joy. And number one, I don't say no, it's just you do less. But because I think our brain is so accustomed to the adrenal kind of reaction from some kind of very high impact activity, and then you feel very good about it. We can still do that, but maybe try a different way. Recently I have been sending a lot of my patients to Zumba classes, just things that are fun, and also, time poor patients, and I do this a lot as well. I have a playlist on Spotify, 10 minutes of songs, and I just jump and dance crazily. I also have a trampoline at home. Some of my patients now have got a rebounder as well. So just switch on a YouTube video, 10 minutes, blast, that's done. So energy conservation is not just about what you do. You don't need a heavy kind of gym membership to do it. You can do little by little as well.
I love that you mentioned joy. I think that's an
Yes.
element that we're sometimes all missing, actually, when we're thinking about wellness. Ada, could you also explain how you approach things like endometriosis, like we've spoken, but also UTIs, fibroids and cysts? Because you spoke to me about damp, and I find this a really interesting way as someone who's recently been diagnosed with endometriosis. Actually, it made me look at the way that that sits in my body quite differently. How do you see that in traditional Chinese medicine?
Endometriosis, any cysts, they are patterns, expressions, let's put it that way, of patterns from blood stasis. So blood stasis basically is your blood circulation is not very well, like it's kind of a bit stuck. So then it's again, it goes through that circuit of liver system, kidney system, spleen system. Of course, there are other systems as well, but these are the main regulatory kind of pathways that's affecting this. So some of the interventions we do is acupuncture again for nervous system, and also signaling how the energy should be moving, or we can be nurturing our liver system just to take out some of the emotional block you have, while also nurturing the circulation, and then also helping you with your spleen function. And then we also then complement with herbal medicine. A lot of time with dampness. Dampness is like, if you think about blood like murky water that are just kind of going very slow in the tunnel, and then gradually they accumulate into excessive linings, cysts. Like, I'm being very visual here to explain it. So then we want to have a combination of herbs that can cool the congestion, but on the other hand also help it disperse. But we don't want to cool the tunnel too much, because then your body can go into more like a frozen mode. So then we would add a little bit of spice to really warm the formula up. And this formula evolves around time. So and whenever we prescribe by 7 to 10 days cycle, and then we evaluate your tongue, your pulse, and everything, and then we adjust the medication. And then we work with you on your diet. Cysts, endometriosis, we all know that we've talked about it, inflammatory responses. So then avoid dairy, sugar, alcohol. This is like the big no.
Oh no.
Alcohol is unfortunate, and I'm not a person who takes pleasure out. So if you're in a consultation, we will try. If you must have your milk and your tea, and that's your only pleasure of the day, I'm not going to take it out. But then if you tell me that you need to have 3 teas a day, all of it needs to have milk in it, then maybe we'll substitute with other plant milks, or we can change it to a herbal tea that works with your body constitution. So that's how we work with these issues.
So fascinating. Thank you so much. And just very quickly, what do you recommend that we can do from home? Because you've spoken a lot about acupuncture and things that you're doing within your clinic. Is there anything that we can be doing from home? Any herbs or anything that we can... I know that's something that's regulated by your practice, but yeah.
I would say that for patients with inflammatory problems, I always say keep the diet simple and light. So less oil, less heated, high heat processed food, of course, like deep fried, have more steam. And then also now this comes to energy conservation, because you have an inflammation to combat every day, every minute. Then you want to have food that are more like, we call it like more like a warm baby comforting food. So more mushy soups, stews, things like this that would be easier to be digest and absorb. So then you can conserve energy to fight your inflammation. Another thing that I have been recommending a lot of my patients now is journaling is great, but some patients really feel journaling is boring, and it's still, they need to think. So now it's evolved into, I actually have been doing this from a very, very young age, that we copy So there are a few books that are only like 200 pages, 200 words a page, from monks and nice mantras, and you just copy this book, like how to relax, how to listen, and then you just take it out and then copy, and just take your mind out and just have this moment of not having to even process any information, but then you after that you have this moment of calmness, and then you can get on with your day.
Thank you so much, Ada. Thank you, all of you. It was really fascinating to listen to all of you. And what I've really taken, and I'm sure that everyone will agree, is this idea of personalisation, but also being kind to ourselves, doing what works for us in the life cycle that we're in, but also doing it with compassion to ourselves. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions? We do have a little bit of time. Yes.
Yeah, I'd love to know the name of the books, the mantra monk books, journaling, because I have loads of clients who say journaling is not for them. So it'd be really nice to be able to offer them a book.
It's by this monk called that. He's very famous. I never can really pronounce the name, but I'll be more than happy to just send you the Amazon link.
Do you have any thoughts or advice around coming off birth control after being on it for many years? I mean, I'm in my 30s and I haven't come off it yet, and I'm kind of scared to, for lots of different reasons, although it's something I'd like to do. But I came off it 5 years ago, and I ended up, like a few months later, breaking out quite badly. I'd never had skin issues before, and then also like my mood was quite up and down. And I've heard from people that you should persevere through that and focus a lot on fibre and detoxing to get the estrogen out. But I think I've just life gets a bit chaotic, and I've not seen a time where I can really focus on that in the last couple of years. So just any advice?
Let's go ahead. Your friends are right. So unfortunately, especially when you've been on birth control for a long time, it shuts off your cycle, right? So when you go off of it, your body has to recalibrate, and that can mean hormonal swings, it can mean changes, it can mean surges of hormones. So you're absolutely right. Having a high fiber diet, like making it kind of super clean, really trying to avoid alcohol and too much sugar can be really helpful. Taking a multi-nutrient that's specific for fertility. I know it's probably not to get pregnant now, but still it just helps to kind of help with your cycle health. And then you can also take a supplement, I would say, to support the liver and the process of detoxification. I think it is, though, just that time.
What liver supplement?
We have one called Deep Detox, and that one is fantastic. Yeah.
Any other questions? As someone who's been through that, I had the same journey, and I kept coming off, going back on, but I pushed through, and personally, not medically, but personally, it was really helpful.
Well, I think that the bottom line too is, at some point, if you do want to think about kids, you're going to have to push on anyways, right? So kind of getting that over with as soon as possible, when you're more kind of young and responsive and free, that's a good time to kind of really try to take care of it.
Some questions at the back. Yeah,
I was just going to add, from a skin perspective,
acne,
if
yeah.
you were looking for certain products to kind of incorporate, so things like salicylic acid, looking at your alpha hydroxy acids as well, and also retinol, just to help with cellular turnover, because you will get that purging, but you want to try and get it out of the system as quickly as possible.
And do you take those acids daily, or is it kind of?
No, so I would recommend start slow, so maybe once or twice a week. You can build up to using every other day. Generally, I don't recommend using it every day. It's too much for the skin.
Thank you, Paris. Yes, the lady with the glass, and then the lady next to her.
Question for Paris. You talked about intimate health and radio frequency for intimate health. Can you explain that a bit more?
Yes, absolutely. It's not something that I do in clinic, but I do have colleagues that do that. So the way that radio frequency can work for this area, so if you imagine where the deterioration is happening everywhere, we're losing collagen throughout the body. And so the effect that we're getting, especially around the vaginal tissues, is we're noticing increased dryness. We're getting a lot more urinary tract infections. We may be more prone to incontinence. Radio frequency actually helps to improve the collagen formation within those tissues. It can also help with strengthening the barrier, helping with hydration as well. And it can be combined with other treatments. So, for instance, some doctors are also injecting polynucleotides to help improve the tissues in this area. So it is a key area of concern for lots and lots of women. And it's something that we should be looking at how we can restore it, because we're living so much longer and we want to be comfortable. We don't want to be thinking about, are we going to be able to wear those jeans? Or, you know, we want to be able to enjoy those years.
Ada, you spoke about the importance of energy, to not be on carbs, and quick using energy. And at the moment, there's a lot of fear-mongering around, quick glucose spikes and to make sure you manage your glucose levels. So stabilizing also the protein. So Rhian or Ada, do you have any advice on this area? Because I don't know to what extent it is necessary to demonize or like sugar spikes, because there can be moments in life where you're like, okay, I want a banana right now because I'm going to go to the gym and work out, so I need that quick release of energy. How do you find a balance?
So we, as a clinic, a lot of our patients come with their biomarkers. So we know that number one, they're not diabetic, they're not cholesterol, that they have got basically no problem with their body. So with that, and if we evaluate their diet, we go through the day-to-day what they eat, and if we see that they don't even have any carbohydrates in there, this is when we need to step in and really tell them that you need to have some carbohydrates in your diet. As I've mentioned, that your body needs that energy as well, to go through the whole digestion process, to process the proteins and the fibers that we're taking. So it's very hard to draw that line when you should have carbohydrates, but or when you can't have. But from my point of view is, if you've got no problem with your markers, you should be allowed and to have carbohydrates. But what kind of carbohydrates? I think that's the important thing that we want to, and the quantity of it as well. So we want to look for not the ultra processed kind of sugar. So you still want to use rice like more raw, or spaghetti is okay, pasta is okay, but it's the portion. Is it a big plate of it? I usually, if just for a conventional patient, I would draw a plate. I would say that as a general guidance, a quarter of that plate can be your carbohydrates, and then protein and fiber would dominate the other parts. Maybe.
Sorry, I have a very strong view on this. So I think the kind of issue with CGMs, they have been incredibly helpful for helping people understand the link between what they eat and how they feel, but also they've made us fear the natural spike in blood sugar that happens when we eat carbohydrates, which is supposed to happen, right? So when we eat a carbohydrate, our blood sugar goes up as it should, and that happens so we can use that energy for fuel. So having a banana before you train is absolutely fine. What we need to be more wary of is having Haribo, right? So having Haribo and then having that spike and then having nothing else. So really, it's about understanding, again, the boring overall dietary pattern within your day and week. Are you having enough fiber, enough protein? And you also need carbohydrate, and women especially do need carbohydrate for healthy hormones and healthy thyroid. So having things like that is absolutely fine. And then on the flip side, it's if you're only having carbs and then you're always just having that blood sugar without the fat, without the protein, without the fiber, that's when you need to start to be a bit more kind of mindful of it.
I was always told to have I'm going to get this wrong now, fat with the carbohydrates, or a nut with a date, for example. Is that beneficial, or is that just masking the problems going on underneath?
Yeah, look, it's totally fine, but we don't have to be so on it that every single time you have a carbohydrate, you have to have protein, you have to have fat, right? In general, absolutely, we will have more balanced blood sugar and more steady energy at meals if we combine kind of your carbohydrate with fat, with protein. But if you're going to have a workout and you need a banana, have a banana. It's totally fine. You need the sugar to fuel you. So we don't have to be like so anxious around food that is like, oh, I don't have nuts, so I can't eat this.
So true. The relationship with food is so important. Yes.
I think the question of Paris Achayra. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, so an 18-year-old girl, my daughter, comes into your clinic. She's had eczema all her life. Not that bad, normal, better in summer, more than winter. She's done every steroid, she's done every antihistamine, she's done all the allergy tests, so she's gluten-free, she's done it all. And bam, she gets to 18 and it becomes terrible to the point that she's lying in bed just scratching all day, and it's become psoriasis because of the stress. So she's done everything, seen every GP's good enough. What would you recommend?
I think we can go down the line.
Well, I'm a nutritionist, so it's more sorry.
No, don't worry. It's okay.
Is she at university?
She hasn't gone yet, but she's just in Heisenberg in her gap in Heisenberg because she's stretching so bad, she doesn't want to go out. I mean, it's all over her face, all over her body, it's terrifying. And she's done every test.
Okay, so obviously looking at sort of stress markers as well, what if there's a certain trigger. But what I'm finding particularly useful in clinic is we're using exosome therapy for these patients, and it works really, really well. Also, colostrum-based supplements I've found really helpful for psoriasis, eczema, rosacea as well. So from my experience, that's what I find.
Past Ada.
Why do you think that beats
Nicole?
everything else?
It's just it's just the experience that we've had in clinic, and we've tried lots of different interventions over the years. But since we've had I've been using, I use Purosome exosomes. They're bovine derived. I've been using them for about 3 years now, and honestly, it's remarkable what changes. And this is without using any interventions with them. This is applying them directly onto the skin.
Can you just explain what exosomes are, actually?
Absolutely. So exosomes are basically carriers and transporters of important information that our body and our cells need to communicate with each other and actually trigger anti-inflammatory responses within the body. So they may contain packets of growth factors, they may contain immunoglobulins, they may contain various important factors which then improve the way that the body communicates internally. Where that's particularly helpful is in inflammatory states, and that's what we're noticing in a clinical application. There isn't enough data yet, so this is still quite in its infancy, but it's progressing really well, and we're going to see so much more of this over the years.
So from my point of view, eczema patients, energy conservation is very important, because if we think about what's happening with the pattern of it, we describe it like marbles that have been thrown all across, and you can't really consolidate, you can't bring it back in for the whole body to regulate properly. And the expression of eczema from a very young age most probably is more constitutional as well. So it also means that your body doesn't have sufficient energy to function all day. Some of the things that we recommend is, as much as we think regular meals are great for us, because our brain would expect, there's an expectation and then you get a reward. In this instance, maybe eating big kind of regular meals can be a toll for the body. So then you want to split your meal into smaller. So then you have more meals, but they are smaller. So to fuel your body consistently and also conserve energy, let the body give the space to do it one thing at a time. And of course, we talked about all the inflammatory food, avoid sugar, dairy, and if she drinks alcohol, then completely cut it, I would say. Okay. Yes, and then also food that can be a bit more cooling, I would say, like cucumbers, things that have got more juice in it, we would say, and keep it simple. I would say that with patients with eczema or chronic skin conditions, inflammatory conditions, I also put them on like a vegan diet for like a week. Throughout maybe like every 1 month or 2 months, just to help them, just to offload the digestive system a little bit too. So this can be one. And then another, from a clinic point of view, acupuncture for nervous system, sense signals, and then herbal medicine. So 2 ways. Acupuncture is basically a full body regulatory signaling. And also lower the parasympathetic signals, the fight or flight, and also tone the parasympathetic activity. And then we combine with herbal medicine, and the formulation is usually more cooling based because eczema is an excessive heat pattern. But then it really depends on where that heat comes from as well. Then we will also add on other herbs to nurture, to help correct that excessive heat.
I love the visuals, the marbles scattering. It makes it really. I think have we got time for 2 more questions? Yeah. Okay. Let's get them in.
I would like to ask, when is best to measure progesterone, and when it's disbalanced, how does it manifest in the body?
So early progesterone-related changes, brain fog is definitely one, sleep deprivation, fluid retention. A lot of people will come in bloating, fluid retention. They're noting that they're much more puffy on the face as well. I tend to, when I'm checking bloods, I tend to say if you're having regular cycles, it's around day 21 that we check on the cycle, just so I get the variation between the progesterone, your estradiol, and also your testosterone levels. So that's why I tend to check at that phase. Progesterone is probably one of the key hormones that isn't well replaced at the right time. I think we need to think about adding this quite early on. So a lot of women could benefit from it around their early 40s, when initially they'll go to a GP, they may be having mood-related issues, anxiety, not feeling themselves, they're working high-pressure jobs, they've got children, there's a lot going on, and it's just put to the side and they're told that they need to go on some sort of antidepressant, when actually you should be looking at the progesterone first.
The reason why I ask, I'm in my early 30s, but because I have checked quite a few things for like inflammation and bloating, and the only thing that I think is missing is that I didn't check this, and I wonder if that is something that I could put attention in, and is it something related that you didn't mention?
You can, absolutely. And also leaky gut is something I would look into for, yeah.
It's a question for Rhian. I'm sorry, I can't tolerate a lot of fibre.
Yes.
I had arthritis and I ended up having a total colectomy.
Okay.
So what kind of things would you recommend I could do in order to make sure that I have enough in my system that would help with that?
We should speak afterwards. Yeah, just because it's really in depth. Yeah. Sorry.
I think we'll have a little bit of time whilst everyone's clearing up. But anyway, yeah, one final question.
About collagen.
Yes.
Maybe more for Rhian. Collagen is everywhere these
Yes.
days. Collagen in skincare,
Yes.
collagen in supplements. But there's a debate about how absorbable it is.
Mm-hmm.
What's your view on that?
So collagen is a funny one, right? Because like you say, it's everywhere, but what your body won't do is when you take collagen, say, it's gonna go straight to my face, right? So, and your body needs collagen everywhere. We use it in our gut, we use it in our joints, we use it in our skin, on our whole body. So if you're taking it to kind of solely protect your face, I would say you're probably better off going with things like polynucleotides, certain types of lasers, right? That is gonna, I think, be far more impactful. What I also think people don't pay enough attention to, because we aren't told to, is all the things that break down collagen and accelerate that kind of loss, which mainly is inflammation, right? We live with so much inflammation that is gonna use up your collagen kind of as fast. So you really will wanna make sure you're giving your body that foundation. What we know is that getting adequate protein in total is more important than taking a collagen supplement. So if you want to look at kind of a target of 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight per day, that's what you want to kind of look for in terms of total protein intake. And then if you want to layer on some collagen on top of that, I mean, that's fine, but I think there are probably more specific things that you can do and far more impactful things you can do from kind of the skin point of view. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, did you want to add to that, Paris?
Absolutely. And it's also about looking at collagen support. So alongside whatever you're doing, vitamin C, zinc, these are the key things that we should be taking. So I think if you're specifically looking to improve the scaffolding, and that's what we're talking about with collagen, it's scaffold, you need to think about which area you're trying to target and then specifically target that area.
Thank you so much. And I'm giving time, so our speakers will be here for a little bit, I think for 15 minutes or so. All that's left from me is a huge thank you to the Sloan Club for hosting us so beautifully. We love being in this venue. Thank you. Thank you to you all for being here. We would love to have you all at our future events. So there's a little card with your programs there. And a huge thank you to our Beauty Triangle. You were brilliant. Thank you.